Hello, this is Two Guys, One Ring, and I'm one of the handsome men in this room right now. We're here to talk about some bullshit.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of material there these days to talk about. As you know now, I'm the second guy in the room, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of good stuff.
How about 2020, am I right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about, and we will try our best to cover every single topic as daily there's new ones, so we'll try to stay on top of
I
it.
think the main thing is we probably should introduce ourselves. I'm Robert. I'm the most handsome.
I can attest to that. He is the most handsome, and he is one of the guys of the two in the room. I'm Jacob, as you now know, and I'm the second not so handsome guy in the room, so.
And we just kind of started this thing just kind of like a little bit of just a fun thing to do, something new.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have an outlet to vent and kind of get out your opinions on things for people to listen to. And I think in today's times, it's a good thing to just sit down and have a conversation instead of acting on violence or, just going on social media trying to fight with people in the comments
Actually,
area.
speaking of that whole violence thing, did you see that French teacher that got beheaded because he
I did
showed a
not.
depiction of Muhammad?
No.
Yeah,
When and
he
where did that happen? I need to
it
know
was
about this.
it was in France. I don't know what kind of teacher he was, but he was showing some kind of caricature of the Prophet Muhammad. And I'm not saying I'm against Muslim people at all. I
Right.
don't have any kind of preference, but this dude had heard about it and dragged his teacher out in the middle of the street and cut his head off in the middle of the street. And then the police came over there and shot him dead. But I just don't think that that was really called for. But
Right. I mean, that brings up the topic of just free speech, and obviously, different countries have different outlooks and different guidelines and laws in place to infringe on that free speech. So I think
but
more than ever, we should just be able to have that
But
outlet.
but in my opinion, France though is one of the more lax countries on free speech. I don't think they're as liberal as most of Europe is, and I mean, it could be a good thing. Besides the fact their battle flag is a white surrender flag. That's besides the point. Yeah, they were claiming it was a terrorist attack, which I don't really know if I'd claim that as a terrorist attack or more or less just a crime out of anger.
Yeah, it sounds more of a murder rather than a terrorist act.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah, I think the French have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth from that thing that happened in Paris a couple
hmm
years back, and they're probably still not too happy about the Muslim population there.
sure.
That sounded really racist, but that's all right. But speaking of infringing on free speech too, is that it's happening right here in the U.S. with Sony giving people, well, they're recording people's party chat, and they're banning them for breaking community guidelines on the PlayStation 4. But
And I was reading on this. I wanted to ask you, how do they have any examples of a situation to where something was said in a chat that they said, okay, that's not okay?
I don't exactly know the exact words, so I'm not going to quote it. But there has been multiple people that have been banned for things that they said in the party chat, and they've noticed that with the new update, when you do join a party, it says you are subject to be recorded,
Right.
and things like that, which is to me personally bullshit. Because if me and my buddies are in a party chat, you say some dumb shit when you're upset and angry.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think any of us, especially being young kids, have ever been on a party chat, for an example, and not said things that aren't correct to say.
The
Just,
Xbox 360.
yeah, those days, I mean, I can't imagine what I said back then. And obviously, when you're a kid, you don't mean what you say. So, I mean, I can't imagine being a kid in today's times where you're playing a video game and you say something you probably don't even mean. You're just saying it to say it.
Well,
And,
yeah. I mean, the thing that what the weird thing is about that nowadays is that I've noticed that kids that like younger kids that play these video games now, they're a little bit more sensitive to different things. Because we kind of grew up in the age of the angry Xbox players,
yes.
calling you every name under the sun, all this stuff that people said was actually quite ridiculous in the end. Now you think about it, now you think back.
Right, and what I don't understand is how are they going to mediate and intervene and then hand out punishments? I mean, obviously there's millions of chats going on daily on PlayStation. So how do you mediate them all? How do you pick and choose what's right to say, what's wrong to say? And it's obviously what people are saying may be opinion based. So how can you mediate someone's opinion? Obviously, there's free speech in place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't make much sense to me personally.
Now, and I think obviously the YouTube is different when it's a community environment. I think things there, it's okay to mediate because you agree that what you say is going to go out to the public. But in a private chat for a specific reason of it being private, obviously.
Yeah, but my thing is about YouTube too. It's there's a certain what do you call it? A certain limit of things that you can mediate because it is it is somebody's creative right to make what they want. Now, if people are like KKK and Al Qaeda and things like that, that kind of shit. I don't think that needs to be on there for our children to see and younger kids. But at the same time, though, you can keep an eye on what your kids watching.
Absolutely, and I feel like this is all transitioning to what's going on in modern day today. It's just the Facebook and the Twitter, saying what can be said and not said, and things that are being monetized and taken down and deleted are opinion-based articles and opinion-based things. And some of them, as we've recently seen with the news reports on Biden's son, those were factual sources and those are facts, and those are still deleted. So I mean, there's a gray line of what can be posted, and I think the social media, it's just they're out the outlets are just putting their political. I mean, can we delete that?
Political.
Political. My
Their
bad.
political inputs.
Yes.
They're moderating to fit their own agenda that they believe in, which personally I don't think is right.
Yeah, I
But
mean, they have the ability to go on their Twitter page and comment on something they don't like, and they can post why they disagree or why that's not right. And then that's okay because that's an open outlet. They can speak their opinion as the other person that posted something spoke their output. But when you monetize and delete things and pick a side, I mean, that's just not doing the service provided from the start.
at the same time, in my opinion, it's also their business. They're able to run it the way they please. But the thing is, it does infringe on rights, which is kind of a two-way street.
Yeah, and it's, as I said, there's that gray line of what's right and what's wrong, and we're getting into that. And as you see, they're trying to put laws into place to really come down hard on the social media outlets to force them to be not one way, but more just in the middle of letting people speak their opinion and that not be deleted.
Like, and I don't know. I think like unfactual things, which I guess the fact checker thing does that for you, I guess technically, but I don't really know if I believe that fact checker all the time. Like, because you can never really tell what people
Right.
will say they said and won't say. Like, I mean, Dr. Fauci claims that Trump, during his debate, said that he didn't want any. He masks are pointless, basically. To make a long story short, and Dr. Fauci says that that's misleading, and that he wasn't allowed to use what he said as a thing. But the thing is, though, you said it; it's out there. He's allowed to use that whatever you say. So that's the thing is that some people need to really watch what they say if they don't want to use it against them because they're allowed to.
Yeah, and I think you're just getting bad territory when you're trying to really just. I mean, everyone nowadays, and it's to me a sad thing to where everyone has to watch every little thing they say. I mean, there's a good aspect of a good aspect of that to where you shouldn't be saying things that hurt other people's feelings. You shouldn't be saying things that is incorrect or hurtful to another person, obviously. But when you say something and you always have to rethink what you're saying, I feel like that's really going to hinder people of giving their opinions. And I think now more than ever, we just need to have a conversation with each other and give our side of things, and then just come with a good-hearted argument to what we want.
Like, and then that kind of brings me along to the lines of this whole Black Lives Matter thing,
Yeah.
because I think that this all can be solved with listening
Yeah.
and talking.
Hmm.
The complete opposite of what's going on now. And I think that if most people would sit down and listen to these guys and say, "Hey, what's the problem that you think is at hand?"
And what's the
And
solutions that could be put into
yes,
place?
but the thing is, a lot. I will say this: that the people that are completely against BLM don't want to listen to it, which I can understand why, but at the same time, I can understand their side too, because it's like they have things that they believe are wrong in this country, and they feel like they're not being heard. But at the
Right.
same time, these guys are breaking things, robbing places, and
And I don't think it's necessary people are against Black Lives Matter because obviously Black lives do matter. And what happened with George Floyd was obviously terrible, and there needs to be something changed about that incident. But the way to go about it with the Black Lives protest, and then them putting a bad name on the peaceful protests, which are perfectly okay and should be happening. With breaking and burning businesses. I mean, that just it forces people to not want to sit down and talk because they give that persona of that's what's gonna. They think burning down buildings is what's gonna make a change when
It's
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 not.
it's kind of like you put it like this. If you want something from the store when you're a child and your mother says, no, you don't, then you throw a temper tantrum, you're probably not going to get what you want.
Absolutely, you're gonna get more punishment.
And it's kind of the way they're kind of throwing a temper tantrum in a sense, but at the same time, it's a temper tantrum for attention, which it's kind of a hard subject to get into because speaking that, me as a white male, a white person in general, I don't know the hardships that come with being African American because there is you can't deny that.
Yeah, no, it's been there. It's in the writing. It's there. The proof's there to be seen. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be an African American, get pulled over by a police officer and have that fear of, am I going to lose my life? And that shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be in their minds. They should feel as everyone else does and just feel safe when getting pulled over, having an interaction with the police officer. But I also believe it's not right to go down super far in it all and say um, that we should defund the police. I mean, to go that far into it when there is good police officers out there who are actually trying to find a solution to not letting what happened to George Floyd happen again, and you're debunking those good officers and those people who serve our communities, and you're hurting them and you're making them not want to go to work, and in return, it's going to continue to let those bad officers, just take over.
But I mean, the thing is too is that there are dudes out there that specifically became cops because they just wanted to kind of beat the shit out of people, which I mean, I know a few, but they're few and far between. I think a lot of these guys just kind of went to the job because it's something they've wanted to do since they were a kid. Um, and I don't think they come in there to with the mindset of wanting to kill whoever, like a black person or an Asian,
Right.
Mexican,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't think they come in there and target specifically a different race, but I feel like it's that way because of a stigma um, that's been put in the minds of a lot of people, which I guess in that sense I'm kind of describing systematic racism, which I think is it's kind of a thing, but I don't think it comes from the Republican side of the spectrum. Because the thing is, where most blacks are struggling are in cities ran by Democrats. So that's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, and you're seeing more and more, not to get super political with the Black Lives Matter, but it's been so politicized that it's almost sad. Um, because there is a place for the movement, obviously. I mean, as I've said, it's not right for an African American to fear their life when interacting with a police officer. There's a lot of police officers in the community who got into that job because they want to make a change in the community, and you know, there's officers who are putting a bad name on them and making them not want to go to work and provide for the community and their families. And when you get into the political sides of a lot of Democrats just use the African Americans as a political stance, and then nothing's done for their communities. And I think now they just need a leader that's going to help their communities thrive.
But I mean, it just for me personally, I don't know how a like if they were going to defund the police, they wanted to get in like a what was it a peaceful community, like a worker, like
Like,
almost like a healthcare worker almost. And it's like, how is that going to work?
yeah, because one of their main points of struggle with the police officers is their lack of training. So they're going to put a health worker with no training, no previous military experience, or no academies, no training that needs to be put in place and that is in place. And I truly believe that there should be more extensive training to become a police officer. And then once you're a police officer, there's more further training. And when you want to defund the police, you take away any wanting to change the training aspects of it all.
See, personally, I have a completely opposite. I think that a lot of the training, 'cause I personally went to the police academy.
And I want to make it known I didn't, and I don't truly know a whole lot of it, so I'm
I think
interested to hear what you have
I
to
think a
say.
lot of the training aspect of becoming a police officer, it is more put around things that don't make any sense, that aren't logical, that don't happen on a normal basis. I think there should be less academy and more stress put on IPC skills, which is interpersonal communication.
Hmm.
Interpersonal communication, more on the job training. Personally, I think if you went to school for, let's say six weeks, and you learn the laws, you learn rules of engagement, you learn how to stop, how to talk to people. But I think you should go through another month, probably 4 weeks, of learning how to talk people down. And I think in that sense, most people should be kind of in a sense, kind of hostage negotiation in a sense, because the less you have to use your weapon, the better off you are. Um,
Absolutely.
and if you can talk to somebody and say, hey, let's try to mediate the situation, then you're better off politically, better off in the community. Everybody's happy
Right.
if you put more emphasis on the job training because that's where you get most of your experience. You learn from being there and doing the job. You don't learn from reading a book.
Right. And I think that's also, and I think there's that difference of just me, obviously a civilian, compared to someone like you who has gone through the training, who knows what it takes to become an officer. And, usually civilian, something like this happens with George Floyd, they assume, oh, there needs to be more training input, as I said, and I thought. But that's hard for someone like me or another civilian to just say that when we don't know what it takes to become an officer, we don't know the training in place. And so it's an easy argument to say, oh, let's add
Mhm.
more training.
Like the thing that happened to George Floyd. That is not that's a no. Anyways, even before this stuff happened, you
Yeah.
do not do that. Because there is I think it's called positional asphyxiation. Um, and that's one of those things that causes it. And people get into this thing called like an excited delirium when that kind of stuff happens, and they hyperventilate in general. So that is a, a big no. Anyways, even putting the knee on the back, we're not even taught that anymore. They're not even taught that for the most part. I mean, people still do it to keep somebody down, but most of the time you'd want to have two officers there, somebody on the legs and somebody with their kind of straddled on the back,
Yeah.
so that way you're not putting all your weight into one pressurized spot.
Yeah, and the most important part to George Floyd, as we keep referencing, is that the knee to his neck. I don't know the correct term for the position he used, but that was unnecessary. The officer wasn't fearing for his life. He had backup there on the scene. The guy was, not a threat no longer when he was on the ground. It was a very unnecessary move, and it just showed a lack of his knowledge on the situation and how to, intervene in the problem.
And the thing is too that really upsets me is the fact that the other officers over there, a couple of them were just training officers. They just got on the job like 2 days, and they got fired for not intervening. Personally, if I'm a new officer and I'm there, I'm not interfering with what a senior officer does because I don't want to lose my job.
Right.
And because those senior officers are supposed to know what they're doing.
It's like in school. You go back to the days you were in school, you don't tell your teacher, you don't tell the teacher they're wrong. I mean, you can, but there's obviously, um,
Consequences.
exactly. So, I mean, with any job or any career you have, you start out a job and you're in the training process, you're not going to tell your boss what they're telling you or what they're showing you is wrong because they're the ones who have the knowledge and you put trust in them. And I think that's what those officers in training did. They trusted, and when a situation happens like that, that may have been their first interaction and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know
Yeah.
what he was doing was right or wrong. They were just
Yeah.
there to learn.
They don't, I mean, that goes back to me personally saying you can't learn these things in a book. You can't read a book and say, I'm prepared for that situation because when it happens, you don't know. And these guys, they were just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They lost their jobs, they lost their careers over something that they didn't even know was wrong.
Right, and there's a difference from training, even like you said, putting things in the practice of the personable skills and what you have to do to solve the problem, but when you're actually faced with they know that's training. They know in the back of their head, they're going through the protocol, they're doing the training. They know in the back of their head, this isn't real. This is just a scenario. So when you're put in a real life situation to where your life is online, you're going to think different. You're going to do things differently because you're not used to that interaction in your daily life. So there's just so much to it and things that need to be discussed. But I mean, I think what we're doing is what needs to be happening with everybody. you can't just turn down the conversation of Black Lives Matter because it's something that needs to be addressed.
I think it's something needs to be addressed, but it needs to be brought to the table in a different way. Um, I think a lot of it can be solved from talking, um, which that comes from both sides
Yeah,
because one side needs to listen, one side needs to actually talk and express in a different sense.
yeah.
Which a lot of them I've noticed they're expressing in a very calm manner.
Hmm.
But you got the select few that are just burning shit down and ruining it for everybody else. So
Absolutely.
that's my take on it personally. But um, yeah, that's definitely my opinion. But
And I agree. It's just a tough thing because emotions are so high and the anger level is so high, and with the political year that plays into it, and so there's just so many aspects to it. It's not a simple thing. There's so many variables that come into place with it, and you know it's been a problem for it's been a huge problem for America for such a long time, and there's been so many situations that happen like this, and we obviously haven't came up with a solution, and it's hard to figure out what is the solution.
yeah, and like I said, I'm no expert on politicalness or politicalness, politics or you know, police in general.
Yeah,
I have been through the training and everything, but beyond the scope of that, I'm clueless.
yeah,
So um, so it's hard to explain really about that whole thing. But either way, how about these masks though?
they're fun, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm I read something today that I think it was from Livewire or something like that. I don't know. Wasn't Livewire like something that we used to give our computer aids,
I think so.
or was that LimeWire?
That was
Oh,
LimeWire.
okay.
LimeWire
Uh,
might do that, but we don't know about it.
I read it on Livewire. They said that the Five Finger Death Punch, the band, um, had a had depicted people that wear masks as communists. I haven't seen the music video yet, so I really don't know, but I don't see how that would.
Right, and as an example to that, Trump had his, Rose Garden event the other evening, and they were criticized and called out and called names because they didn't. No one was wearing a mask, and I think the defense to that is that's their personal choice. They were tested that day, and if they all agreed to not wear a mask, then there's nothing wrong with that because it comes to their free choice. If they get COVID, that's on them, and they
Hmm.
understand that. And if they agree to that risk, there's no problem. That's their personal choice.
Yeah, I mean, I, I can understand where the worry would come from. Uh, Speaking that Trump did have COVID, um, but at the same time, I don't think it's the government's move to tell us what we can and can't do with our own bodies. Which I guess a lot of people would bring that conversation back to abortion, which I don't even want to get into that subject today because
That's a
that'll
whole podcast
yeah
in its own.
that'll take me 10 years to explain and try to figure out.
Right. But with the mask thing, it's, there's really no middle ground, it seems someone's so far on the spectrum of it. Either you have to wear a mask, it's the right thing to do, or it's my right to not wear a mask, and they have that free choice of whether they wear one or not. But I mean, it's like you have to understand the risk, and you have to make your own judgment
But
call.
that's just kind of how the political climate is right now, though. It seems like anybody is either extremely left or
Yeah,
extremely right, and there's not a whole lot of middle ground right now because neither one of the candidates, in my opinion, are too much to the center. I mean, it, it's hard to think really because I mean there is personally I think there's good policies on each side.
yeah. But the
Um,
problem with that is, I agree with you. The problem with that is there's no middle ground, and
mhm.
that gives the reaction that we're so deep into our beliefs that we're not willing to listen to the other side. That happens. There's not going to be any solutions as we see. There's no going to be conversations that can put things into place that are just meeting the needs of the American people, coming together with both parties, and it's just arguments.
To me, it just seems like it's more like you guys did this with Russia, or you guys did this with Ukraine, or this and that, and it's
Yeah,
just it's a big blame party about what happened, and I don't think there's any kind of political aspect or anything like that into this election, personally.
I agree. I mean, we saw it with we watched it together, the first debate, and it
Oh yeah,
was, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I don't think either side of the party wants to see a debate like that to where it's just continuous arguments. That's not what you want in a leader. You want a leader who,
come on, man.
yeah, you want a leader who will listen to the other side and then maybe possibly adjust their thinking into what they believe.
Hmm.
And, that debate was just horrendous on both sides of it.
It was kind of a shit show,
Yeah.
but you got to admit Donald Trump is one funny son of a bitch, though.
Yeah, I mean, he pulls in the viewers, and I think that's what he enjoys. And I think we saw a little bit of a bright side with the Biden and Harris debate. I mean, I feel like it was a little bit more collected.
I didn't catch that
You didn't
one,
watch that one?
so I didn't catch
It
it. I
was
was at
good.
work.
They both had collective thoughts, and they both kind of, you know, one candidate giggled a little bit more than the other, but I don't have to say who. But
I personally, Biden to me is I he's kind of a funny, weird dude in a way.
he is, yes.
He's different.
I just feel like I don't want to get too political, but I mean, we're going to talk about anything, so I guess I will get political. But you have to look into it to where there's so many great people the Democrat Party could have nominated, and I think they just picked the worst of them all. When you have someone that has been in politics as long as he has, with nothing really on his resume to show promise for the American people, and it's sad when you have a candidate with such low quality and low performance to go against, a president in a nomination.
Yeah, it's hard to make any points really to me, to be honest, when you really haven't done anything,
Yeah.
and when you have a guy in office that has either attempted to do things or done things, and multiple things, whether they be good or bad.
Hmm.
But he still stuck to his beliefs and done what he thought was right in the first place.
And the
So,
sad thing I think is we saw it with the town hall meetings the other day with Trump, Savannah mediating it, and then Biden with forget who mediated it, but just the difference in questions, the difference in what we found out about Trump and Biden. I mean, Trump was hounded by questions, deep thought questions, and then
mhm.
Biden was given free ball questions that were easy to answer. And so we really truly, I can say for myself, I don't really truly know what some of Biden's politics are and what he wants to put in place if he does become president. I mean, as he said, we don't get to find out about his opinion on stacking the court. I mean, we don't even know his opinion, and that's someone that could be our president. So I feel like that's not a very good viewpoint to not let your voters know what you're going to do when you're president.
Yeah, a lot of it was more like general questions,
Absolutely, yeah.
and didn't really get into much depth about his policies and things. I feel like they were trying to trip Donald Trump up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't catch all of it either, so I don't know if they did trip him up or, but with a lot of those deep thought questions and things like that, it and compared to Biden's, what do you plan? What's your plan? You know, what is your plan? That's all I want to know.
Absolutely.
And can you talk a coherent sentence without forgetting where you're at?
Yeah, that seems to be a problem. And the other thing is, I think it was a few months ago, and forgive me for not knowing the exact timeline, but Biden said he doesn't agree with stacking the court. He was against that a few months ago, and then now he is for it. And that just shows he's more of a puppet for the left party. And that's scary to me because he is just going to run with anything that he's told by the left so he can win, and then he will just become a puppet for the Democrat Party.
Yeah, he's not. It just don't make any sense to me. But
So, what's your final opinion to wrap up on, since this is a hot topic now with the nomination of Supreme Court Justice? What do you think of? It's on the left. It's been their answer is saying you should wait till the election is over to elect a nominee. Do you think it's right for Trump to elect a nominee now?
well, he's the president,
Right.
so I think it is right. It's fully within his power to do that. As he's still president, he could have done it. He could have waited till after the election and done it a day before Biden was
Yeah, and the
until
stats show it's been done in the fourth year before an election 29 times in our history, and you're president for 4 years, not three and a half.
Hmm.
So when you have an empty seat, which is rare,
You
and
take advantage of it.
well, absolutely, it's such an important, pristine position in the government that when you have an opportunity to fill that seat, you want to do that.
I mean, I think she's very intelligent. I mean, the what is her name? I can't even think of her name off the top of my head.
Amy Coney
Yeah,
Barrett,
yeah, she is very intelligent.
very much. I mean, I've never seen a nominee in my time that's been such intelligent and has such thought out answers to her questions. And if you listen to her nomination hearings, she does not sway one. She's very strong on them, her thoughts on abortion, but besides viewpoints on that, she doesn't lean right or left. She's more of
Mhm.
just that straight um, justice you want.
Yeah, because that's not a political seat to hold.
Right, absolutely.
It's not one party or the other. So I think that's the way it should be. But well, I think that's it for our first episode. We're gonna wrap it up and go to bed.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to do, and we appreciate you guys listening. And this is our first podcast, so forgive us if we made any mistakes, or you can fact check us or whatever. But we're just learning and going to find out new things to talk about, and um, just continue to give great content.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.